Well, 2011 looks like the year of the rally, but if the economy does improve, Republicans and Democrats will battle to take credit, of course. That's politics, right? Big impact on the election 2012, of course. Here is former Clinton pollster Bernard Whitman. Bernard, I know where you're coming from, and you are bound to say that President Obama can, will, and should take credit next year for this recovery. Right?
That is true, but I'm going to shock you, Stuart.
Go ahead.
The credit for the recovery actually begins under George W. Bush. Why?
What? Oh, this is highlight reel material.
Now,
highlight reel. You've just made
why?
Why?
Because of TARP. His signing the TARP bill was the beginning of the stabilization program, which was increased, strengthened, and enhanced through Obama's stimulus plan, financial regulatory reform. Those programs averted a huge dip into a depression, stabilized and calmed the financial markets, averted us from going into double-digit unemployment, and fundamentally paved the way for a market rally to come beginning next year.
I think that the Bush tax cuts and their continuation have more to do with the recovery next year than the TARP of 2 years ago and the stimulus package.
So you're suggesting that cutting taxes for 1 or 2%, top 1 or 2% of the American people, is really driving all that money into the economy?
What I am not suggesting, I am telling you, is that the Bush tax cuts stimulated the economy and will continue to stimulate the economy so long as you don't remove them.
Yeah, the Bush tax cuts were the 97%, which should have been extended.
Are you still playing this class warfare nonsense?
No, it's not class warfare.
Do you mean to tell me that you think that we would have a 3.5%, maybe 4% growth rate next year if we went out and taxed the rich some more, raised capital gains taxes? You really think we'd have that kind of recovery?
Returning
money
money to the middle class, which drives economic growth. 65% of the economy is consumer spending. Most of that spending is driven by 97% of the American people.
Help me out, Andrew.
And one last element, though. This Congressional Budget Office, nonpartisan, identified the payroll tax holiday as the most effective and efficient return on investment, providing up to almost $2 for every dollar cut.
And the liberals didn't want it, Bernard.
No, the payroll tax holiday, that was Obama's push. That was not the Republican.
Oh, that was Obama's push. Well, then why was the far left screeching and moaning and howling about it? Look, I will give you credit on one thing. So, because I'm in the holiday spirit, and during the break, Stuart said that Fox brings us together.
Yep, that's the new slogan.
Right? So, I will give you credit. I think a lot of Democrats have come out and they've been blaming George W. Bush. I mean, we've heard this talking point over and over and over. And I would argue, well, he came together with Obama on TARP. So you got to give him credit on something,
Agreed.
Right? Now, I disagree with you that TARP actually is the reason. I think Stuart's right on this one. I think that these tax cuts gave every American certainty. They gave businesses some certainty. That was the biggest sin of the administration, besides Obamacare, was failing to give businesses and the market some planning power.
But they're not doing it now, Bernard. This payroll tax, not for nothing, it's not going to do a whole heck of a lot. It should have been on the employer's side, and everybody knows that. If you want to help small businesses, give them the cut,
the payroll
not
tax
us.
Is some $114 billion. That'll likely return maybe $225 billion.
People are going to pay their debt. People are going to pay off their debt and pay their bills with it. It is not coming back.
That is going to stimulate the economy.
You put it on the business side.
People are paying their bills.
If you put it on the business side, you would have seen hiring. They would have had extra money in their pockets.
Now, Bernard, how do you feel about your president, President Obama, our president? He was the one who kept on saying that it was the Bush tax cuts which had driven the economy into a ditch. Now he's arguing forcibly that we must retain all of those Bush tax cuts.
That was
a bit of a contradiction.
No, that was a compromise that didn't really satisfy the Democratic base, and by the way, didn't satisfy the new Republican base. Why? The Tea Party ran and was elected on a pledge to cut the deficit, not increase government spending. And look what happened. This is the biggest economic stimulus plan in history. $858 billion. The Tea Party, how could Tea Party supporters approve of busting the deficit?
I think I just hallucinated. Listening to a Democrat talk about the deficit after the stimulus and Obamacare defies a suspension. I mean, you need a suspension of reality. Tell me something, though. If you're talking about the deficit, why didn't Democrats let the leftover stimulus money go to pay for that extension of unemployment benefits?
That is something that I would have supported. In the
coming
holiday
together
spirit,
here.
we are finding common ground.
So you agree with me that the economy will expand next year? You think Obama takes the credit? I think the Republicans should take the credit. Is that where we're going to leave it?
I am cautiously optimistic. I don't want to fall into irrational exuberance. I think the market is going to rally more so than the last 2 years, but the baseline there was pretty soft.
All right, Bernard Whitman, it's always a pleasure, and thanks for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.